Okay. Forgiveness, forgiving is one of the three main reasons for our souls to incarnate on planet Earth. And in order for us to have something to forgive, we basically have to go through experiences that demand that we face an issue that requires forgiveness. So every most of our lives are, I would say, 80% of our lives are filled with lessons and filled with issues. But there's for every fourth or fifth lifetime that you choose on planet Earth, you are rewarded with what is called a resting life. You are given a life that everything goes right for you. You have no conflict, you have no hassles, you have no lessons to learn. Everything just goes very, very right for you. So far, I I do not think personally I have met one of those people yet. I think every single person who has crossed my path has always been in a position of having to learn lessons. About 15,000 words came in for Helen Suckman that were personal, personal to her journey, personal to her experience with Bill, personal to her experience with her family. And those were effectively deleted from the text that you see in front of you. The text that if you were to buy the book, the course A Course in Miracles, of the it used to be sold in basically three books, and now they all combined it. It's the paper is tissue paper thin. It's about the thickness of Bible paper, and it has it it's more uh, it's combined in one book because they just felt that it was more conducive to, to selling it as a package in one book. Through Amazon, I know you can pick up used copies. I know I've seen them occasionally. I've gone to the Salvation Army. My daughter loves to shop thrift stores, and I've seen them there. I've seen them on as used books. So, but typically, if you buy it new, I think it's around 29.95. And so, after today, you can decide: are you interested in pursuing this further? Because you'll kind of see the format that we work with. And is there anything, Elizabeth or Christine, that you want to add to what I've said?
Um, I don't know.
Okay, Christine, how about you?
I would say no. That's a great summary.
Okay, very, very quick, but very, very easy.
No, thank
And
you so much for the background. It was really helpful.
well, the irony to it is Helen Suckman was an atheist. She had no agenda. She had no religious beliefs that she then had to take and say, "Oh, that's not what I believe. That's not what I believe," and because that would have made her stumble. It would have made it very, very difficult for her. So to take down these words. And how I tell before we start, about every 6 months or so, I'll remind my students that we this is looking at life through the eyes of your soul, through the eyes of your spirit. Basically, your soul is the container for your spirit, just like the sausage casing is the container for all the meat inside. So it's like you can't separate one from the other, but spirit is the everlasting part of you. Spirit is that part of you that never left God, has always been with God, but is also always with your personality self. The personality self is this part of you that you can see, feel, hear, touch, taste, smell, and everything. So, anyway, let's begin. We finished on what we are studying is chapter 10, The Idols of Sickness. And the way he defines idols, because you really kind of have to have this background, is idols can be anything that you put on a pedestal in your life. So I got a list from Spirit of what they considered idols, and Spirit said your hair, your car, your home, your job, your jewelry, your clothes, your monies, your vacations, anything that you are extremely for or extremely against can actually be an idol. And including, believe it or not, your opinions about the vaccine. Because I had to get off that bandwagon. Because to me, I felt anybody who's unvaccinated is harming the rest of us. And, again, I guess there's a reason for that. And even though we don't know what that reason is, we really just kind of have to step back and accept it. But Elizabeth, if you'd be kind enough, read paragraph 3, and then I'll tell you what I want you to underline. And this is on page 187.
Okay, paragraph 3. The sonship cannot be perceived as partly sick, because to perceive it that way is not to perceive it at all. If the sonship is one, it is one in all respects. Oneness cannot be divided. If you perceive other gods, your mind is split, and you will not be able to limit the split, because it is the sign that you have removed part of your mind from God's will. I just want to go over that again. That didn't, for myself mainly. If you perceive other gods, your mind is split, and you will not be able to limit the split, because it is the sign that you have removed part of your mind from God's will. Okay. This means it is out of control. To be out of control is to be out of reason, and then the mind does become unreasonable. By defining the mind wrongly, you perceive it as functioning wrongly.
Okay. And again, just to remind you, you're looking at life through the eyes of God, through the eyes of your soul, through the eyes of spirit, which is not at anywhere close to the mind of the ego, which is the other part of us. We have two minds inside of us. We have the mind of spirit, we have the mind of ego. And so spirit's mind, it's just like when it says the sonship cannot be perceived as partially sick. It's the same as saying, well, I'm partially pregnant. There is no, that's not possible. You can't be partially pregnant. So therefore, the sonship cannot be perceived as partly sick. We, the ego, feel we put all kinds of judgment on every single other person that we have in our life. That's what we do. It's just part of how we act. It's part of what we think. It's part of where we are. And when we work at getting out of that kind of modality of thinking, but again, it takes a lot of effort. It takes a tremendous amount of effort to do it. And it takes a tremendous amount of effort once you judge something to be wrong or to be hateful or to be spiteful or to be whatever it is, to say, well, let me look at it differently, or give me the ability to look at it differently. That's the place where I finally have come. I just say, look, I'm really having a hard time with this. I can't tolerate what is going on. So give me another point of view. Give me another way to see this. In terms of underlining the very first sentence, go to the sonship cannot be perceived as partly sick. Okay. And then skip down to sentence 3. Oneness cannot be divided. And continue with 4. If you perceive other gods, and like that list that I went over with you, your mind is split. Skip down to the next line and underline the sign that you have removed part of your mind from God's will. This, and the next sentence, sentence 5, this means it is out of control. And then on the next line, and just put the plus sign and out of reason. And the whole of line 7. By defining the mind wrongly, you perceive it as functioning wrongly. And this is, if you stop to think, what have we just gone through this past couple weeks? We've gone through the exit of the military from Afghanistan. That exit was completely predictable because of the fact that the Russians quit after 16 years in Afghanistan. All of the lessons that they learned from their experiences, our military knew it, and our military had a complete record of their experiences from their surveillances and everything, and could have, and even in the beginning, I think it was General McPherson, and Christine, you might correct me if I've got the wrong general, who said right from the beginning that that the difficulties of this, what was happening and what was going to happen. I think he was like the second commander, either first or second commander, to be put in charge. And because he spoke truth, he was relieved of his responsibility. He was basically fired. And he could have saved all total. There was, I heard a recap yesterday of Judy Woodruff saying that on PBS News that there was a total of 7,000 lives lost. Obviously, a reason for that, and one of the reasons that I had come up with this last month that we spoke about was the fact that the Afghanis got a taste of what it meant to be under a democratic rule. And they got a taste of what it meant to have, instead of 3% of their females educated, 39 or 49 or 59% of their females educated. And what a difference it meant to have females in roles as doctors, lawyers, judges, which had never occurred before. And so now it's going to really take the Afghani people themselves to stand up to abuses, however they come, because they're the only ones who can help themselves. They have to do it. So anyway, but that's that's the only thing that I want to say on this paragraph. And Elizabeth, as you read it, was there anything that came out um, for you that you felt was important and that
Could
you
I,
could illustrate?
could I just go back to what you said about Afghanistan?
Yeah,
So the reason why Bush insisted on waging the war is because he was supposed
correct.
to allow the Afghan population get a taste of democracy.
And that's the new paradigm that I was given by my guides that I never thought of. I had never considered that as a possibility. And so, even though, granted, yes, absolutely, he played into a portion of their future, which they had never, up to that point, they had never experienced. They just went from one mullah to another, to another, to another, from one set of restrictive religious beliefs to another, to another, to another, that just governed the uh, the the people. So
Wow, I never thought of that either.
yeah, I mean
I,
that was amazing,
it is, it is. It's absolutely amazing, amazing.
right? Because I mean there were years I hated Bush. I just
Oh, so did I.
despised him. And I thought, wait a minute, wait, whoa, 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 whoa. I'm a student of A Course in Miracles. I got to get off this track, you know, and everything. But I really could not understand this, what I thought was senseless, 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 senseless. But now looking at it from this perspective, it wasn't senseless at all,
Wow.
you know.
Fabulous, fabulous. Thank you for sharing that because that opened up my eyes. Thank you.
You're welcome. How about
Agreed.
you?
Great interpretation.
Yeah, a different one, totally different, from
Yeah,
anything that's ever been published before.
yes. Okay. The one that stood out for me was oneness cannot be divided. And if you perceive other gods, then your mind is split. And you cannot control the split. And then you cannot. Well, anyway, I don't want to go through the whole thing again, but essentially that section of it, if your mind is split, then you cannot devote your entire mind to God
Correct.
because it's split on other things. So it's divided. That's the one that really stood out for me.
Excellent. Yeah, that's super. Because again, what's the split? The ego versus spirit. That's the split. You can side with the ego or you can side with spirit. You can choose, ask to see things differently versus, oh, that's wrong, that's judgmental, that's, just stay in the duality, stay in the black and white. So anyway, but that's a very good one. Christine, how about you? What stood out for you?
Yeah, I guess say the same sentence, particularly the part that you can't limit the split. So once the split is there, no way to limit or control it. And then I think the last sentence, by defining the mind wrongly, you perceive it as functioning wrongly. Um, I found that very impactful.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, because once once you take sides, once you really say, I mean, just look at it, pick up any newspaper and you'll immediately figure out the slant on on it, or talk to anybody who has a preference for one side versus the other, and you can immediately get their slant, and to the point where you might stand back and say, well, that's idiotic. But from their perspective, their point of view, their belief system, their everything else, it's not idiotic. It's completely justified. And so and so it's really hard for us as humans to think of the fact that all things are possible, all things have a place of like a justification in our the development of our soul. So anyway, Lori, do you have, I know you just had to listen, you didn't have the benefit of the written word in front of you, but do you have any comments on anything we've talked about?
With what was just discussed about the duality. So I'm not sure if the goal then is to have a balanced sense of, or is it really to, is that the goal is to truly understand or see both sides and then try to find a balance? I guess that's what I'm taking away from it.
Yeah, my understanding is neutral, to be right down the middle, to maintain a neutral stance, because this is what Christ did. He would, like, when you stop to think, the example that I'm being shown is he would have supper with what the Pharisees and the Sadducees, which were the top of the religious culture that he belonged to. He would have supper with the taxpayers, with the prostitutes, with the undesirables. He also healed on Sunday, which for them was a big no-no, but they were so hypocritical in their own right, you know. So Christ, I guess, maintained a neutral position, and that's what we're being asked to do. This is what we're being, like, shown, that for every for every head there's a tail, for every tail there's a head. And it's the polar opposite of what we thought it was. You can't have, in our planet, which is a planet of duality, you can't have one side without the other. For every up there's a down. For every wide there's a narrow. So anyway,
Thank you.
all right. Thank you. All right, Christine, will you go with paragraph 4? Or is there anybody else have any other comments? Okay. Paragraph 4.
God's law will keep your mind at peace because peace is his will, and his laws are established to uphold it. His are the laws of freedom, but yours are the laws of bondage. Since freedom and bondage are irreconcilable, their laws cannot be understood together. The laws of God work only for good, and there are no other laws besides his. Everything else is merely lawless and therefore chaotic. Yet God himself has protected everything he created by his laws. Everything that is not under them does not exist. Laws of chaos is a meaningless term. Creation is perfectly lawful, and the chaotic is without meaning because it is without God. You have given your peace to the gods you made, but you are not there to take, but they are not there to take it from you, and you cannot give it to them.
Okay. This paragraph feels to me a little bit confusing, especially the last sentence. You have given your peace to the gods you made, but they are not there to take it from you, and you cannot give it to them. Basically, what this points to is the illusionary nature of our existence. The fact that each one of us has created an environment that we have chosen for the growth of our soul, whatever it was, the family that we were born into, the children and spouse that we were to take, the career that we followed. Every single experience was selected by us. And when I say selected, I'm talking about major eh, outcomes, nothing minor. All minor outcomes are the result of your day-to-day thinking, your day-to-day choices. Every single thought you make changes the trajectory of your life. You may find that you're going along fat, dumb, and happy along one trajectory, and you meet somebody else. Like, I guess the best example I can say is, I felt bad that my hip ached until I met a man with no feet. Something like as extreme as that. And so we we constantly continue to select the items in our life so that our soul can advance and advance in acceptance, advance in understanding, advance in wisdom, and everything. Now, in terms of underlining, go to paragraph at paragraph 4, first sentence, the whole sentence. God's laws will keep your mind at peace because peace is his will and his laws are established to uphold it. This is the central theme of this paragraph, peace, that you're constantly searching for peace. Okay, and in paragraph 2, his laws of freedom, your laws of bondage. And bondage in this case is my life is ruined if my hair doesn't look good. So I can't go out in public. I can't present myself on anything because my hair is the dampness has come in and it's frizzed it up and everything, or whatever it is that you decide for yourself is so critical and so important to your journey that your day is ruined if you don't have that. I know there was one time, this is when I was a brand new waitress in a luxury restaurant. I was 21, first job after college, lived in a Montauk Point, which was the end of Long Island. And literally, the a man, when he placed his order, he basically said no cucumber on his salad. One slice of cucumber, one slice of tomato on lettuce. That's all it was. Well, when I brought him his salad, it was a family of 4. He looked at that and he just with the just almost like disgust and hatred said, I said no cucumber. So I immediately brought that, whisked it away, and brought him one without a cucumber. He sat like this the whole thing, except, to put food in his mouth, and he pouted the entire meal. I ruined his dinner because I placed a slice of cucumber on his salad. So what did he do? He gave his power over to a slice of cucumber, and effectively he made that. So what did that do? That caused bondage about him. Okay, so to continue underlining, his laws of freedom, yours. Excuse me. Excuse me. Wow. All right, and then sentence 4. The laws of God work only for your good, and there are no other laws beside his. Wow, this has rose oil in it, and it's causing me to sneeze for some reason. Okay, there are no and so in sentence 5, everything else is lawless and chaotic. And then skip down to sentence 8. Laws of chaos is meaningless. And then in sentence 9, creation is perfectly lawful. And then in sentence 10, you have given your peace to the guides you made. And then to continue, but they are not there to take it from you, and you cannot give it to them. Because ultimately, why does that sentence, it's just now making sense to me. Why does that sentence not make sense? Is because you, the essential part of you, is spirit having a human experience, not the other way around. You're not a human with a spirit's body, with spirit in your body. You are actually spirit having a human experience. So that's why the gods that you made, and remember, made is always comes from the ego, the word make. Create comes from spirit, make comes from the ego. They're not there to take it away from you, and you cannot give it to them because effectively it doesn't exist because it's all illusion. You just made it up for your own learning. And I know I've mentioned this before, but the book called by Gary Renard, The Disappearance of the Universe, if you read that book, A Course in Miracles will actually make more sense to you. I just found that it was absolutely amazing. And I think that, again, that's one of those books that you can easily find a copy of and get it very, very inexpensively. Okay. So, Christine, as you read this, did anything jump out at you?
Yeah, and I guess the last sentence I took it to mean you've given your peace to the gods you made, but they cannot take it from you. That they can't take it from you because they're false gods and therefore not there to take it from you.
Absolutely, they're false gods. That's the key to everything. It's false. You know, whatever
Yeah.
you give your power to, um, it's a choice. It's a choice you made. And don't know why. I've got do not disturb that should not have come in. But anyway,
Yeah. And then a couple others. Well, I think a lot stood out. Second part of the second sentence, but yours are the laws of bondage, essentially that we chain ourselves in many different things, as you noted. And laws of chaos is a meaningless term. And I just think of, you pick up the newspaper or read the headlines online, and so much chaos out there.
oh my God. And it's interesting because it seems like one newscaster after another, the Washington Post, the PBS, Rachel Maddow, they're all reiterating the same stuff, you know. So, all right. Uh, the Lori said that she missed the name. It's called The Disappearance of the Universe, and the disappearance of the universe. And the author is called Gary Renard, Renard.
Great, thank you.
All right. Thank you for that chat. So this at first, this whole lesson seemed to me when I first read it, I thought, oh yikes, this is another one of those difficult ones. But if you just think about it sentence by sentence and go through it slowly and kind of digest the sentences, they make sense. It's so much easier to understand. And the whole purpose of A Course in Miracles is for you to gain freedom, for you to gain peace of mind. Because frankly, not much out there will give you peace of mind. Elizabeth and I are both gardeners. So we have that. And I know myself, when I'm in the garden, nothing goes through my mind. Just, oh my God, this belongs here, or maybe it needs a better home, or this weed, I think I'll let it grow because it has a pretty flower in October, and so I let these weeds that start out this tall get this tall, and look forward to their white blossoms in October, and think even some weeds deserve to stay because they really look beautiful, when they're at their prime and everything. So, but anyway, Elizabeth, how about you? Did anything really pop out at you uh, when Christine read this?
The one that struck me is God's laws will keep your mind at peace. Well, I mean, and that we know, I mean, that's not anything new. But how does, and I know that we can get God's laws from this book, all of it, and they're well explained. But how does the average person get God's laws? I mean, does the average, like, are the Ten Commandments God's laws? Is that what those are?
That's interesting that you asked that question because according to Neil Donald Walsh, who basically said the in he asked this almost the same identical question, and God's answer was no. Why would I command myself? You are God. Why would I give you 10 commandments, you know, to follow? But yet I I I have a different take on that. I feel for the time of the when the people were uh, there, for the time when Moses was there, if this is recorded history the way it happened, that he actually came down with this list of commandments on stone tablets, if that really happened, then he those commandments spoke to the people of that he was dealing with. Because at that time, there was still something on the books that said an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. So everybody's going to be left blind and toothless. If you feel that you have to retaliate in that manner, this where effectively, even the fact that they say, thou shalt not kill, how does the military excuse all their killing? How do they excuse it? Because they say it's for our safety, it's for our freedom. And would you want to live under Nazi rule? Would you want to live under communist rule where they take your basic rights away? Would I want to live under the Taliban rule? Absolutely not. I mean, I was born in Poland. I can't tell you how many times I've thanked God that because of my father's birth in America and then him being taken back as an 8-year-old and raised in Poland, and my mother falling in love with him, he was able to get out and then um, to, it took him what, a year and a half to get us. Think we followed him in 1.5 years, or either that or 2 years. I think maybe it was 2 years that it took him to get us because we had our passports, we didn't have our visas, and so he just, I mean, I'm just so eternally grateful that I did not have to go through that experience of being raised in a communist regime. Because my grandmother, when she came in 1955, she would regale us with stories of how people, to get a bottle of vodka, you had to whisper in your own home because people would sit on the outside of your house to see if they could hear you saying anything against the state, and they could turn you in, and the state would come and get you. uh because uh Hitler has been vilified for killing 6 million Jews. The statistic that is so little known is that Stalin killed 30 million people. 30 million is a whole lot more than 6 million. but that's a statistic that is very, very little known. And would I have wanted to have been raised in my formative years under that type of fear? Um, no, I wouldn't. So anyway, but does that, Elizabeth, does that answer your question? Am I close to answering your question or not?
Well, yes, it's not the Ten Commandments, but I guess the average person who isn't reading A Course in Miracles or isn't, I mean, I guess when they can get the rules, or I guess the rules, I don't want to say the rules, but they can figure out how to live through their spirituality
And
by
correct.
meditating and by just by what appears to be right for them. Those are really the rules.
And
Those are God's rules.
what brings them peace?
What brings them peace?
Right.
Yeah.
Somehow or other, what brings them peace?
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, and are the Ten Commandments? Would I not want to follow the Ten Commandments? Of course I do. I just feel that. But to me, the most important commandment is the golden rule. Do unto others as you wish to be done unto you. Because I feel that if I wouldn't want to experience that from another person, why would I inflict that on another person? I just
Absolutely.
don't want to do that, and everything. So, but so really, the Ten Commandments. Do most people care? I would say most people are kind, at least in the people that have crossed my path. I have had very few people that have been maliciously, viciously wicked or maliciously, viciously hurtful. Occasionally one crosses my path like that, but not for the most part. So I consider myself very, very blessed. And now that, once I stepped into my spiritual path, all I have around me are people that are basically like you guys, that have a complete um, willingness to pursue a different type of spirituality, not necessarily the spirituality like yours and mine, which was Polish Catholic, you know, not that. Uh, that I let that go a long time ago, you know. So, but anyway, um, any other comment, Elizabeth, on this?
No, no, I don't have any others.
Okay,
Thank
great.
you.
And Lori, how about you? Is any comments that you have from what you've listened to?
No, I'm just taking it in, and yeah, and just hearing that passage, just like what guides you as far as like what you think is right and wrong is kind of what I'm taking away from it is um, like not necessarily rules, but the guiding what you know is right is what you follow.
And like I said, the golden rule to me seems to make the most sense of all the quote unquote laws, because God's laws effectively, like one is cause and effect. What goes up must come down. The cause and effect is going to really be something that uh, you know most people don't understand, that or they don't necessarily want to take responsibility for their creations. People are very quick to say, you made me do this, you caused me a lot of heartache, you unsettled my mind, you did this. But no, it's your own attitude. Because you can't control anything out there. You can't control what other people think, say, or do, but you can control completely your own attitude. And if your attitude tells you that, oh my God, you've got to go sit in a corner for a while and lick your wounds because you feel like you've been attacked, then do that, and ask for help with understanding why this is happening to you. So don't just feel that you're going through this journey by yourself. You're not. You have this huge entourage, angels, archangels, ascended masters, Reiki masters, ancestors that are all with you, gods, goddesses, the Elohim, the great race. You have this huge entourage of beings in spirit. All you have to do is call on them. All you have to do is ask for them to, to come to you. Okay, I'll read for Lori. Lori, this would have been your paragraph. This is paragraph number 5. You are not free to give up freedom, but only to deny it. You cannot do what God did not intend, because what he did not intend does not happen. And this is where, like I said, the disappearance of the universe, helps you understand this. Your gods do not bring chaos. You are endowing them with chaos and accepting it of them. All this has never been. Nothing but the laws of God has ever been, and nothing but his will ever be. You were created through his laws and by his will, and the manner of your creation established you a creator. We create with thought. What you have made again from the ego, is so unworthy of you that you could hardly want it. If you were willing to see it as it is, you will see nothing at all, and your vision will automatically look beyond it to what is in you and all around you. Reality cannot break through the obstructions you interpose, but it will envelop you completely when you let them go. And again, substitute the word love for reality, because this goes back to the introduction to A Course in Miracles. Nothing real can be threatened. Nothing unreal exists. Herein lies the peace of God. So that to reiterate that with love, love can never be threatened. Only love exists. Herein lies the peace of God. So somehow or other, if we can transpose every single thing that we see around us as a piece of love, we can absolutely um, start to see things in a different manner. Okay. In terms of underlining, there were 2 sentences, actually 3, that he put in boxes that they wanted you to put in a box. The first one is the whole first sentence, put it in a box. You are not free to give up freedom, but only to deny it. And that is the freedom of your spirit, the freedom of your soul, the freedom of you as spirit having a human experience. Anything is possible to you. Okay, so then the next one, go to sentence 3, and at the end of the line, you are endowing, and the word them, just put your gods, with chaos and accepting it of them. If you follow the idols that your ego wants you to follow, you will lead, I guarantee you, you will lead a life of misery. And then continue with, all this has never been. Again, he reiterates, all this has never been, which means it's all illusion. You've made it all up. And Then sentence 5, nothing but the laws of God has ever been, and nothing but his will ever be. And he wants, they put that in a box for me. And then skip down to the end of sentence 6. The manner of your creation established you a creator. And then skip to sentence 10. And next to the word reality, put /love. Just write the word love to remind yourself that that's what reality is in God's world, is nothing but love. Reality cannot break through the obstructions you interpose, but it will envelop you completely when you let them go. It's like when you're going, oh my God, I saw the most hysterical, well, I don't know if it, I laughed, but I felt at times I shouldn't be laughing because of what I was witnessing. But it was like roadblocks and two roadblocks that were put up. And it basically said, do not enter. Well, all these cars, including semis and trucks and four-wheel vehicles and little cars, big cars, everything else, went around the roadblocks because they were just two cones. And then when they came to the obstruction, it was railroad tracks, but then it had two like 6x4 boards across the railroad tracks. So I don't know what was happening to the railroad tracks, but then it showed how some even little cars with very jostly tires were because the suspension was able to handle that obstruction. They went right over those two obstructions, but where a car without that would literally flip over. And it showed how many, including buses, including tractor trailers, how many cars ignored those little cones, and they just kept going, and just went through. And I thought to myself, my God, isn't this a great illustration of the ego barreling forward with a type of reasoning or a type of thinking, saying that, well, those cones, that's not a message from me. I don't need to heed that. I'm not going to go back 20 miles or 10 miles or 5 miles or 1 mile to retrace my steps to take a different road. I'm just going to continue. And but I thought, how arrogant, how absolutely arrogant that these people did that. But again, that was such a great example of the ego having, having to have its say, having to have its way, you know, and not you not wanting to, it not wanting to give you the ability to say no, I don't. Uh, you're going to heed this warning, and you're not going to go through. So,
Alice,
yes,
could it possibly be desperation?
it could be.
Because I mean, if they have a very very tight schedule,
Yeah,
could be afraid that they will not make it.
yeah,
So they're hoping. So I mean, they see the sign, but they're hoping that maybe somehow they can get through.
absolutely. Yeah, totally. No, that's absolutely possible. I mean, everybody has their reason why they would ignore two cones, because those two cones, and nobody tried to go through. They just went around them because there was enough space to go around them. And so it wasn't much of a barricade and everything. But when they came to this, for whatever reason, especially the ones that had SUVs with the suspension that, went like, you could see the wheels just just going, literally going up and down. I mean, it was fascinating. I watched a whole lot more of the video than I had expected to watch, and everything, just to see. I kept thinking, surely, obviously, there was a camera set up that captured all of this. Surely it would stop, but it just kept going and going and going. And I don't know how many accidents there were. And then some where the vehicle stopped in the middle of the tracks and then had to be towed out. And then the person who was towing was having a hard time and just kind of going back and forth. So I mean, it was fascinating. It was absolutely fascinating to witness this. But anyway, as I was reading this, um, what what jumped out at you, Christine? What did you feel jumped out at you?
Yeah, the first sentence, "You're not free to give up freedom, but only deny it." I thought that was very powerful. And sentence 6, "The manner your creation established you as a creator." Key to remember that the individual actually creates. I
Correct.
try and remind myself that. And then on your point on Eastern Europe, like my father's family probably came over in late 1800s from Eastern Slovakia. And I always think, like, what if they had stayed there? They would have been through World War One, World War II, and communism. And if you're born the wrong year, your entire life is under war and communism. So just an additional thought.
Totally. Yeah, totally. And how grateful you were that they took the effort to come here.
Yes, because it's huge even today, but I can't imagine the 1800s
Yeah.
moving across the country
Uh,
without the internet. The internet to find a house and everything else.
oh, and so many of them came with one little bundle, if that much,
Right?
because they had nothing, you know,
Yeah.
and
Somebody
then
had a lot of pluck.
exactly. So that was great that they did that. And I know when I went to East Ellis Island, this is this will make you guys laugh. I was standing on the south side of the thing, and I looked at the taxi, the water taxi, that to take you over to Ellis Island, and it said $25. And then, of course, I presumed I'd have to pay a fee to go to watch the Statue of Liberty. Well, as it turned out, you only had to pay a fee if you wanted to go to the top of it, which I didn't. I didn't have that much time. I wanted to go through the memorial and everything. As I stood there, I heard my ego say, "Oh, that's a lot of money." And then another part of my mind came in and said, if you don't pay that price, you will never get to travel the rest of your life. And I thought, okay, I wanted to travel. At that point, my husband was still working. And while he was working, he never would he never would take the time. He thought it was just too insane for us to go to Europe. And I had so many places that I wanted to see. So we had to wait until he retired at age 72 before we could, you know, go back to see anything. So as soon as I heard that voice say, "You will never travel the rest of your life," I thought, "But I want to travel." So I put that $25 down so fast, got over there, and the greatest visual that I remember was that somewhere in the building they had the different countries, and then they showed the number of people that came from that country, and so the peak immigration, and the 1800s were huge. And so some of them of course were greater in the early 1900s, but the 1800s, I can remember Russia, and because of the pogroms and how many Jews were being persecuted by the Russian militia. um, they made a huge influx of people. But if you've never gone, if you do get to New York, a trip to Ellis Island is absolutely worth it. And then they would show people being everybody had to be checked by a physician because there were so many illnesses, and they had to be quarantined in some cases. In other cases, they sent them back. And I don't know how they decided who got to be quarantined and who got to be sent back. I have not a clue, but anyway, it was really, really fascinating, because if I personally feel that if every one of us traced our roots back, um, chances are we all came from parts of Europe, parts of Asia, parts of Africa. So anyway, um, Elizabeth, how about you? When I read this, anything jump out at you?
Well, it's one of the ones that you really, I mean, this whole paragraph is really is pretty is really has a lot in it.
Mm-hmm.
But it's the one that you did not underline.
Mm-hmm.
It's sentence 2. You cannot you cannot do what God did not intend, because what he did not intend does not happen. Again, that goes with only things that are supposed to happen.
Yeah, yeah, and I'm glad you pointed that out, because that kind of went right over my head. Yeah,
It's really it's and I that's what we're told, and I guess I guess it's true.
yeah,
And just that, and I guess that means I have to go back to Afghanistan,
yeah,
and the way Biden is doing the withdrawal.
yeah,
It's so chaotic.
yeah.
Is that chaos supposed to happen? I mean, or is that one of those little things that we do, that it's not one of those major things that are being ruled, but it's one of those small things that we have control over. I mean, is it supposed to be this chaotic?
Well, I feel that personally, and I'm going to ask Christine to weigh in on this because of your job at Homeland Security. But I feel that it was emblematic of the fact that he could have chosen a different way of the chaos ensued, because there were like probably multiple ways of doing this exit. And personally, I felt, had he started to evacuate the civilians first without any grand announcement, um, months before, that he probably could have effectively gotten everybody out that
Yeah.
needed to get out, and then do the military at the end, which would have been more protected, because
Yes.
our military stood there all with their machine guns as they were boarding the planes. So, and too many people, I feel, did get left behind. But Christine, I'd be interested in your opinion on this. So, yeah,
Sure, and they clarify like what I do has nothing to do with uh, Afghanistan. So just
true.
as
But
background
you have
disclaimer,
opinions.
but
So,
I have opinions.
right.
I found it difficult to read the headlines. I'm not sure why it happened as it did. I just find the headlines so distressing. Many things I don't understand. If the timetable for departure was announced, I'm not sure why people are going there as tourists. That's one thing, but yeah, just tremendously sad to see the headlines and people left behind, and um, I, I'm speechless as to why it happened the way it
Yeah,
did, in my
yeah,
personal opinion.
yeah. And not only as tourists, but why, if there is a withdrawal going to take place, do you go back because you're going to see your parents one last time, and now you're separated, you're here, and your family is there, uh
Yeah, and if there was a timetable for withdrawal, I'm not sure why um, you wouldn't have started earlier on the timeline, because I don't know, somebody there must have known that things weren't going so well.
right, right.
So many
and,
questions, few
and
answers.
the irony is that the timetable was first set by Trump. It was supposed to be the end of May, And then for whatever reason, when Bush extended it till the end of August, it seemed to me like instantly, even before that announcement was made, people should have been started to be
Absolutely.
rotated out. You know, I mean,
Absolutely.
250,000 Afghanis are still apparently were the helpers of the Americans. Uh, I hate to think that there is a bloodbath there, but again, for whatever reason, this was meant to happen. Lori, do you have any comments on anything Elizabeth said, anything Christine said, anything I read?
No, so when you think about you cannot do what God has not intended, like some of it is people usually like blame all the negative on God's doing, or I don't know if I'm using God incorrectly, but or uh, so maybe that some of it is the decisions people make to have an effect on that. And then earlier talking about the bondage and giving up your freedom and obstacles getting in the way, and some of that being self-imposed due to like how you think about things. So I just think it talks about being like imprisoned in bondage, and I think a lot of that is just the way of thinking of a lot of people is what creates that, and that's what the passage made me think of.
Excellent. Super. That means you were really listening. Yeah, that's hard for A Course in Miracles to really listen to the words without having it in front of you, you know. But I guess I'm a visual learner, and so auditory just kind of helps me. It kind of reinforces my learning. But thank you for those comments. Um, all right, so we're going to Elizabeth will give you the opportunity to read number 6. I I I gave you the underlining of all this, didn't I? Did I tell you where to
You
underline?
did.
Okay, okay, great. Okay,
You did.
so number 6.
When you have experienced the protection of God, the making of idols becomes inconceivable. There are no strange images in the mind of God, and what is not in his mind cannot be in yours, because you are of one mind, and that mind belongs to him. It is yours because it belongs to him. For to him, ownership is sharing. And if it is so for him, it is so for you. His definitions are his laws, for by them he established the universe as what it is. No false gods you attempt to interpose between yourself and your reality affect truth at all. Peace is yours because God created you, and he created nothing else.
And again, this just boils down to the fact that your spirit is never without the ability to generate peace. And it is your ego that brings all the chaos into your life. So, and this one, the first 2 sentences are to be underlined, and because they are so, the sentence 2 is so long, I just put brackets around the beginning and around the end of sentence 2 because it's like 1, 2, almost 3 lines. So when you have, this is sentence 1, when you have experienced the protection of God, the making of idols becomes inconceivable, because when you really understand who you really are, what you're really capable of, how you can react to things versus how your ego is having you react to things, then it's like you can let that go. You can let all the things that kept you bound and little and fearful and angry and bitter, you can just let that go. And then sentence 2, there are no strange images in the mind of God, and what is not in his mind cannot be in yours, because you are of one mind, and the mind belongs to him. And the only image that I kept being given when I read that sentence, or I should say, when Elizabeth read that sentence, is that when you go into spirit, when you finally transition fully into spirit, you go into a place what the, and the people who have had NDEs, the near death experiences, they bring with these images back. But you go into a place that is nothing, radiates nothing but love and radiates nothing but peace. So basically, that's what he is just trying to get you to understand is, even though, put it this way, you you will transition into that when you die, because essentially there is no death, because it's like walking through a door. You just walk from one dimension, you move from one dimension into another, but you can still have that same experience of love and peace here while on earth, through your ability to meditate, through your ability to contemplate, to your ability, through your ability to bring, to like commune with nature, or just walk through nature, or just walk through a garden and just sit quietly and admire everything that garden has to offer. To me, being in a garden is being close to heaven as I can imagine. You know, being in nature for me is just identical to being with God. And then the last thing they wanted to underline is the last two sentences. No false gods you attempt to interpose between yourself and your reality affect truth at all. Nothing can come between you and love. Nothing can come between you and peace unless you let it. Okay? So this last sentence sums it up. Peace is yours because God created you. And I just put the word peaceful at the end. I mean, anybody who sees, with some exception, obviously, but anybody who sees a brand new baby, my God, they're just so peaceful. They just radiate peace. And and then the last sentence, and he created nothing else. So that's what you underline. Um, big, again, really important lesson today. I'm so sorry, so few of the things, but with your permission, is it okay if I put this on my website, that anybody who missed it can access it next week? Will that be okay for you? You guys mind?
Yeah.
Is that all right, Christine?
Yeah, that's okay.
Okay, and Lori, how about you?
Sure, that's fine.
Okay, super. Because I do have a few, but I don't have any recent ones. So I think I'd like this, because this to me, this today's paragraph was really, really, I should say, lessons were really, really important. You know, and I really thank the three of you for showing up today, and in light that I gave you 3 days notice this was taking place. So anyway, but Elizabeth, anything jump out at you as you saw this?
There really didn't. Nothing specific jumped out at me. It was just a wonderful paragraph. I mean, it just went from one to the other. It's everything is of God, and if we don't allow other things to get in the way, we will have peace. Peace and love.
Exactly. And Christine, how about you?
Yeah, I think the last two sentences, peace is yours because God created you and he created nothing else. Um, yeah, there's nothing else. Peace.
Yeah,
Focus on peace.
yeah. And we can. It's a choice. It's an absolute choice, you know. And that's one of the sections in my book, is uh, make different choices. Two whole months worth of meditations for every day. Make different choices and everything. Lori, how about you? And I really admire you for hanging in there without a book.
No, thank you. But I liked your comments about what peace, uh, is nature and just seeing babies. So it gave a great visual for that. So
Yeah.
nothing else to add though.
Or sitting by a babbling brook. There are so many times where I'm in such a rush when I go by a babbling brook and I keep thinking, you know what, this doesn't make sense. I've got all this beautiful gentle noise and or gentle gurgling. I shouldn't call it noise. And here I am rushing through my life to to get it instead of just enjoying it. So anyway, um, but anyway, ladies, all right. Well, I think it's almost at the end of 12:30, so I will hopefully, let's see, in October, um, what what was our schedule for October? It was October 9th is our thing. October 9th, November 12th, December 18th. And I don't see any reason to have any conflict with those. I'm not expecting company. I'm not expecting to go anywhere. So I see what happened for me today was the fact that I was supposed to get Max last week, which would not have conflicted with September 11th. But instead, Kira said, I really need you the following week. I'm sorry, I was supposed to get him um, this week, so it would have ended tomorrow. And so that would not have conflicted with next week normal schedule. But she basically said her babysitter, her nanny that she relied on for 5 and 6 days a week, all of a sudden is given her 2 days a week because she's in classes to pursue her education. And she said they had a nightly install um, at their for their job, and she said he's obviously, I can't get her to stay overnight with him. She's not available. So this would be the better week for you to take him. And I thought, all right, I've got 6 different things I have to rearrange, but that's okay. I can do that, and everything. So, but I do thank you, for coming on such short notice. Because like I said, I gave you 3 days notice, which I usually never do, but that's all she gave me. So anyway. All right. So hopefully we will see you next month. Thank
Can I
you.
ask how your wedding was?
Oh my God. It was fantastic. But my Christine, I prayed, I prayed, I prayed, I prayed. I prayed to the angels of water. I prayed to the undines. I prayed to Hercules to hold back the clouds because the that Friday, the this is an outdoor wedding, of 120 people, and everybody had to have COVID, either a vaccine or a negative, COVID certificate, and nothing ruins an outdoor wedding faster than rain. And that Friday, the rain forecast was 50%. It went up as high as 60%, then went down to 50%, and rain for all day Saturday. She was caught between Tropical Storm Freddie and Hurricane Henri. And so they both were in the vicinity of the wedding. And all I kept saying is, the Undines have always paid attention to me when I have asked them to stop the raining when I have to get out of my car to run into a store and or run back into my car, and they always pay attention, and they always for half an hour they stop the rain, and I'm able to usually, you know, get done what I need to get done and everything. So, and I even had the image of Hercules, like I said, holding back the clouds, and
Oh,
prayed God, prayed to Elohim, prayed to my guardian angels, prayed to everybody I could think of. The rain stopped 11 o'clock on Friday because it rained all day Thursday. It rained Friday morning. It stopped 11 o'clock on Friday and didn't resume until 11:30 Saturday night. So the whole rehearsal dinner and wedding were able to take place, and she had designed it to be like a fairyland because she had maybe 20,000 to 2,500, 25,000 lights in trees and branches wrapped and trunks wrapped and bursts of lights, the LED lights and everything. So I mean, it ended up being magnificent, but like I
Sounds
said,
beautiful, but rain would not help. Yeah.
yeah, not accomplished with a lot of rain. So every time anybody said, "Wasn't it incredible that it rained?" I take credit for that. I, I don't care if they laughed or not. You know, I said my prayers, you know, took care of that. So anyway, but thank you for asking. You know, that was it was amazing. It was absolutely. It was like walking into a movie set. You know, uh,
did your
somebody.
did your son he lives in New York too, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So did he have any hand? Did he help with the sets and the decorations and all he did?
He did, I would say, most of the work.
Oh wow.
He and his helpers, because he brought in three helpers, they did most of the work. And it was,
Mm.
I mean, the poor guy was exhausted because he literally worked up until 4:30 and then had to go take a shower right there. And I had his suit, forgot to give him uh, soap, forgot to give him shampoo, forgot to give him a towel, a washcloth. So when he went into the pool room, because the manor house had an indoor pool, and when he went into the pool room, there was a dirty washcloth, a dirty towel, and dial soap, and that's what he washed up with, you know. So I thought I was so guilt ridden over that it never dawned on me that when I brought his suit in, that he would need, you know, stuff. I for some reason it just didn't
Yeah.
cross my mind. You know, did not cross my mind. So anyway, but yeah, he and his three helpers did most of the magical stuff. You know, so anyway, and I have it posted. If you gals are on Facebook, I do have it posted on Facebook. You know, if any of you want to see the pictures there. So
I'm
and
not on Facebook, but
yeah, Elizabeth, you had another question or
No, I'm not on Facebook, but I'd love to see the pictures
well
because
next time, yeah,
I
next
know your son and his wife do beautiful, beautiful scenery. They do beautiful sets.
exactly. And she designed everything and she got exactly what she designed, you know, because that's her business, production designer. So and everything. So hopefully you know, it worked out to her satisfaction. So
Good.
anyway, all right. Thank you all again.
I
Bye bye now.
Bye.
Bye bye.
And thank you, Alicia.